this, I have to talk about this. Set photos have leaked from the Picard series, Star Trek Picard series.
Was looking into some of this, and it looks interesting for sure.
They're wearing the classic TNG or Deep Space, the later version of the TNG series uniforms. So this is huge right here. That's a big deal. I thought we'd see brand new uniforms everywhere and something totally different, and these are pretty much the classic Starfleet uniforms. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it seems like they were going for a culture shock for sure. They really wanted people to have that full nostalgia burst.
Yeah, I think at first this might be because here's the thing. Picard comes out, or rather Patrick Stewart comes out and he says, this could be a very different Picard than what you're used to. So, I don't want anybody to be shocked, but this Picard is 20-something years have passed, and he's a different man now, and all these sort of things. And that, at first, was scary because if you're familiar, we're not going to go back into it all over again, but if you're familiar with what's going on with CBS and Paramount and this deal, the bottom line is the guys making the show, the guys from Bad Robot, basically the J.J. Abrams guys that did the movies, they're the ones in charge of all the new Star Trek, even including the new Discovery show. They're only in charge of it because they all want to make money, and the studio wants to make money. And
it's a very easy cash grab for sure.
Well,
the property itself is massive.
But here's the thing: if they are not able to make that money, if Star Trek is exactly the same as it was, then they have to split it or whatever with Paramount and all these things. So they actually have to make Star Trek literally like 30% different on purpose. So
they have to retcon certain things, and then they have to change, names, locations, places, and they also have to. They can't even really allude to certain things that have happened previously either.
Right,
and that's why. Regardless of what conclusions we draw about, the leak photos and things, at the upfront that happened the other day, there was a clip that played, and you saw Picard, come out, and someone said, may I have your name, please, sir? So this really suggests that he's not the galactic, celebrity that he once was, and it really shows that, he's stepped away from Starfleet for quite some time. So, like you said, it's 20 years later, and so this gives them a lot of opportunity to write a whole new expanded universe, and hopefully they take it in a very creative direction.
I'm a little concerned.
It's limitless with what they can do here, but they have to be cautious and careful and true to the character. How true can they be if they can't reference or bring up who he was beforehand?
Well, that's what's weird is like they can't, but then again, like Discovery, they did a good job with Pike. I didn't like almost anything else. I thought a lot of the characters were all right. This last season, I don't know if you watched it. You might not have, but a lot of people haven't. But the last season of Discovery was really, season 2, was really convoluted, really weird. And in the end, basically what they're doing is retconning everything they've done. Because you're like, how does nobody know about this space travel that the ship does and all these other things that never existed? And by the end of season 2, you know why. There's an excuse for it, and it happens. And basically, spoilers going forward, I guess I'll just tell people.
Because I haven't seen it, but I'm okay with spoilers. I know you were...
I don't think you care. I mean, I can tell... if you cared, you would have watched it by now.
I didn't have CBS All Access, so that was my kind of like...
Oh, you could have borrowed mine anytime. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was just my pushing point. Like I eventually will get to it, but
the bottom line
as you were
is,
saying, with the spoilers,
it's not a huge thing that really hurts anything. But basically, in the end of the season 2, is they're going to go into the future. They're going to go like way into the future, and I'm talking like way beyond TNG and stuff into the future. So now all this crazy technology and stuff in the whatever. Anyway, I don't know, but the bottom line is, I'm also concerned about. They're trying to bring Section 31 into this, and I'm concerned that I heard rumors that, Picard, after like leaving Starfleet directly, was entrusted to work in Section 31, which is like the secret ops of Starfleet, and
it's the MI6 of
and they're kind of like the bad guys a lot of times. Like even if anybody saw the new Khan remake sort of movie. In a Darkness in 2012 or whatever it was, they had Khan was part of Section 31, and so wasn't the guy who played RoboCop, whatever his name was. He was a bad guy. and he was in Section 31. And there are bad guys, and also basically they always end up being bad guys in Star Trek Section 31, or they're like on the line type of thing. And I'm concerned that Picard, these rumors of Picard heading that up, could be true, and only because like he's wearing black right here, which is like this is like the Section 31 type colors. So I don't know. I'm just concerned. I hope that doesn't happen. You know, Picard is like a guy who loves history, and you know he's just such a smart guy, and a guy who's
extremely intelligent, and he always found a way to bring order and balance. You know, that was one of the key principles that I always saw that, you know, he valued. He, you know, no matter the situation, he was able to keep like a very calm and cool demeanor. You know, and that's, I hope they really, you know, pay attention to what made him special with the fans. I have some faith here because, I mean, you have people from Rick and Morty, you know, producer Mike McMahon is coming over, and there's a few others. I mean, they grew up loving Star Trek. Apparently, you know, it's going to be Star Trek Lower Decks is the working title right now.
Well, and that's one of the original ideas also was that Picard would be thrust back into something where he had to take a young crew all of a sudden and do something with a whole, you know, new crew. And there was an episode of TNG, I believe, called Lower Decks, which that involved a younger crew of people. So that could be like a little bit of a throwback as well.
Yeah, that was, you know, Sam Lavelle and Cito and Alyssa, the nurse there.
Damn.
And they had to, you know, get away from the bridge crew and take all those low-ranking crew members, and they, you know, put them into missions. So that was the TNG episode.
Was that the one where one of the girls like dies right at the end of that, or is that a different one?
I believe so. I believe that was the one. So
yeah,
it's been so long at this point. But.
No, it has been a while, but I mean, I probably still watch TNG. I mean, literally seasons 1 to 7 every 2 years at least. I watch the entire series probably. Because I'm a psycho. But yeah, so I just hope it's done right. I don't have that much faith because of Discovery. Discovery was so whatever. And here's the other thing. You talked about merchandising and how they changed. They had to change merchandise. So they had to have these new uniforms, new everything, all these different things. And the merchandise did awful. And that was a big reason why they wanted to make sure it was 30% different so that they kept all the money, was because they were going to make a lot of money with merchandising. Problem is, Star Trek fans, classic fans that would buy the merchandise, nobody's buying it because nobody likes it. So you're really only selling merchandise to maybe new fans who like the new show, and maybe really hardcore like old Star Trek fans who still want some of this.
Yeah, collectors that have to get everything whether they like it or not.
But if this was a series like the Orville, and it was like TNG, but 20 years later, like we are now, and maybe there was some cameos, and it was along the lines of Trek we know, and the toy lines would have killed it. They would have sold like crazy. They would have
would have flew off the shelves.
Ambassador Picard, like all this stuff would have just killed it, and they didn't do that because they were greedy. Because they never would have even launched a Star Trek series if they didn't think they couldn't alter it so that they could make money. And that's what they're doing. They're altering our canon for the sake of that. In fact, they make a strong effort to explain multiverses in the new in Discovery, basically saying that like, hey, this might not even be the timeline you think it is, you know, type of thing. So that's very strongly shown in
they're
Discovery.
Also saying that, you know, like usually with Starfleet Academy, you're thinking of like Wesley, but apparently they're saying, you know, everyone from the leaks looks genuinely, you know, older than what they would be for Academy age.
If this is the Academy, but yeah, it looks like the Academy, but
that's the thing.
If it is,
you know, so we'll see what they have in mind, but we're not going to have to wait that long, I guess, because San Diego Comic-Con is set to have some, you know, further details and a trailer coming out, I guess.
What is this video? Are we able to see a video of this somewhere?
There is a short clip. It's not long at all.
Yeah, like 5 seconds.
There's one that says Picard, and then there's another one that basically shows a quick little introduction of him.
Oh.
With someone, you know, asking his name. I'm trying to see if I can pull that back up for you, but
it's like a super teaser, I guess, huh? I see a lot of people saying leaked photo, but I don't see anywhere where people are like, oh, there's a video. So has this even leaked anywhere?
Not that I've seen anything more.
That's too bad. I'd love to see a little clip. I mean,
the only thing I saw initially was the 4 set photos and that little 7-second teaser with the name and that Star Trek themselves.
If you see video sent it to me, I didn't see it. So Star Trek tweeted out a video?
Yeah, they sent out a tweet earlier last night. It was like 5:30 p.m. saying that Picard will stream exclusively on All Access in the U.S. and Prime Video. Oh,
God, it makes me sick to my stomach when I go to the Star Trek Twitter, and the main thing is like the captains are there, and in the middle is Michael Burnham instead of like Picard.
Yeah,
like this makes me want to puke, and not because she's a woman at all. Because Kate,
no, but it's you figure like with the lineage and the history of everything.
Yeah, like Kirk and Picard should be in the middle, and then Sonique Martin Green should be like way the fuck over there somewhere, and so shouldn't Pine. Put Pine way over there, put Sonique way over there. And put Cisco where he is. That's fine, But anyway, that's such neckbeard loser like complaint. I'm just being a douchebag. I know that she's the current Star Trek, so put her in the middle. They put Patrick Stewart in the front when they were maining this stuff ahead of Kirk. So I'm being a bit of a bitch, but I can't help it. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
It's okay to nitpick some of those minor things because it is typically done. Same thing at times. Even such a thing as minor spoiler here, but. With Endgame, with the Avengers stuff, having the females fight together. They've never worked together. They've never, most of them don't even know each other. And
that was so forced. It was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I'm not even that mad about it. It was so quick that I'm whatever. But yeah, that was. I mean, everybody saw that. Even people that were like, "Oh, there's no SJW stuff," they were like, "Oh wow, that was almost cringy." Like, and I was like, "This is what I've been seeing. It's just not normally so cringy, but
yeah."
But here's the thing. Here's why I don't mind it as much. Like, here's the thing. All the people that normally get mad about that or that don't get mad about that got noticed it finally. But for me, I didn't even get that mad, and the reason why is because although it was a cringe moment for all the women coming together for some weird reason, for no reason whatsoever. It didn't have a major impact on like some kind of plot or something, so that didn't bother me. What bothered me was like in Star Wars when Poe Dameron was like, "You stupid man, I'm the woman and you're an idiot man." Like that's basically what they did. And they altered his character and cucked him out and ruined his character development. It did not help his character development. So that's that was enraging. But that
they did that just to demean.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was like they did that just to demean him, and they demeaned Finn. They demeaned Finn as well for Rose.
Yeah,
because it's almost like they looked at the storyboard and they were like, "All right, I see you're black male, and
I'll raise you.
I'll raise you a female Asian." Like that's exactly like what it felt like. Like, oh, we've got this isn't good enough. We need to have female Asian and then like purple haired lesbian lady. And get these two men out of here, and then they ruin their whole story and their whole development.
And it would be okay, not so much okay, but a little bit more acceptable if you were introducing new characters that weren't taking the role of someone that already existed.
Right.
But you went ahead and did this, and Admiral Akbar got killed off so unceremoniously.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to really know that he was killed till after the fact. They blew up that part of the ship, and it's just like, oh yeah, he's dead. By the way.
Yeah.
Leia can float back in because. Apparently she can do that now, but
we are committing sacrilege right now, though, by turning Star Trek conversation to Star Wars. I want to make.
Yeah, but it's just in pop culture, even with the Avengers.
No, I know
they do this thing, but we've seen Gamora and Black Widow, and fight alongside the Avengers. That was never the issue. The women can have their own thing and be their own powerful entities. It's the fact of when they do it, when they do it to so forcefully that it ruins the story in a sense. That's when it's just an unnecessary problem.
Yeah. When I notice it a lot, it's like, man, that's why that's why the Avengers thing barely even bothers me. But it just was fun. I almost laughed in the theater.
Yeah, you can have strong female lead roles, and you can have diversity. There's no problem with that. They make it seem like it's an issue. That was time and time again, we heard Captain Marvel say, we need diversity, but it's already there. You're just choosing to ignore it.
You're just being
greedy. It doesn't fit your agenda.
Well, they're being greedy.
And that's what I was worried about with the Picard show, because there were some things in Discovery that people weren't thrilled with, and they changed how some characters would react and how they would handle situations. And
yeah, it's a little bad in Discovery as well. One of the worst was at the beginning of Discovery. And just to wrap up the Picard stuff real quick, he is wearing like kind of this beige outfit, almost like he's returning for the first time and whatever. We always know he wanted to go back to the Vineyard at some point, maybe. So I don't know what he's doing. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I just hope they don't kind of ruin the character a little bit. If I get any incline of like, this is crazy, I'm not watching this, like I'll turn it off to save my view of Picard. You know what I mean? I will abandon ship quickly if I think that this is not doing the character justice. I hope to God Patrick Stewart, wouldn't allow something to be done that was too insane to Picard.
Yeah. I said the same thing about, Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, then I'm kind of,
he said multiple times, this is not how Luke would act. This is
there
not
you go,
what Luke
bringing
would do,
Star Wars back into it again,
it.
you son of a bitch. Bringing Star Wars back into it again. But you know what? I'm actually mad. Even though I appreciate that Mark Hamill tried to tell us and he was angry, I'm angry at Mark Hamill for being, I wish Mark Hamill was like, I am not doing this.
Yeah, and it makes me worried about, you see, will Picard go ahead? Will Patrick Stewart, is he just contractually obligated to do whatever's in front of him, or does he have enough gall and wherewithal to know that, hey, if this is not going to represent the character wisely, I'm not going to go along with it?
Well, I feel like he knows this is coming because he led with that a year ago now, a year and a half ago now, when he came out and he said, this is not the Picard, you knew. Like, he's very different. So, like, he knows something is up here. Like, so, and then why he would say that is, again, because of licensing and how they actually have to vary so deep, like, strongly from the contract, or from the characters, so that the contract remains valid for them to get full amount. Now, this show clearly has made a change from what I've heard. They were going a completely like erroneous direction, and from what I understand, CBS has figured out like this isn't working, and they've clearly made a conscious decision to back the truck up. So I am hoping that helps this series, because what happened in Discovery. And you know what sucks is, even though Discovery backed the truck up and they're clearly trying to fix everything and they're explaining things, they brought on Captain Pike, who was like the classic Star Trek captain. It's funny because everybody loved Pike. And, some of the, people would say, oh, would you like him because he's a white male, but you didn't like the black girl? No, I really didn't. No, because we loved Sisko. He's a black guy, Deep Space Nine. He was the captain.
Yeah.
Loved Sisko. Loved Kate Mulgrew. So it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the characters. The character of Captain Pike was much more like a real Star Trek character, whereas many of the characters, there was so much turmoil and hate and anger and resentment and drama that is not what Star Trek is. I don't think they understand that Gene Roddenberry was writing a perfect world almost. You were seeing a perfect world kind of have to deal with some issues, but it was always working together or helping each other. And even when a villain or somebody, did something wrong, they felt bad about it type of thing. Like, nobody wanted to see that, and everybody was put more together. And on this series, they wanted turmoil, they wanted conflicts and all these things, and it was like, that is not Star Trek. At the beginning of season 2, Sonique Martin Green, I believe that's her name, and she's a great actress too. Like, all the actors were amazing. Like, none of all the only problems with Star Trek Discovery was the writing and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't the casting.
God,
it wasn't,
they were
the way
so
it was
good.
Filmed. It wasn't, none of that. The production value was up, and it looked very
dude,
produced.
Everybody, like all the production, the editors, almost everything is perfect, but the writing and the decisions.
Set design, costumes, all of it.
Now, in the beginning of the season, Michael Burnham, who's her character, and I think it's Pike and then like his first officer or something, and they're flying somewhere, and the guy basically immediately like shits on Michael Burnham. He's like, how are you going to do this? I'll be the one that does it. And he's acting all ornery and just angry for no reason. And then they're out there flying, and she's like, don't do that. Don't put, your thrusters on because we're going to blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I know what I'm doing. Why don't you pay attention to what you're doing, stupid type of thing. He literally basically says that. if you listen to it. And then like a few minutes later, he blows up and dies. And that's supposed to be like, oh, the man was mansplaining, so now he's dead.
Yeah, now he couldn't change his ways.
So you're at home watching this, and you're supposed to be like, hell yeah, that guy was an asshole. That does not happen in Star Trek normally. Like, that's not a Star Trek thing to make one of the people like that, to where something like that happens. It just was so sick and weird. It was not. Because
wasn't there an issue too? What you said at one point, I think it was with Spock, right, being happy over a fight.
Oh yeah, it's at some point. This guy that they've got conflict with a little bit, just recently. She gets she punches the guy or something like that, and then Spock sees her working out. She's trying to get her anger out because she attacked this guy. And she's working out, and she's like, I'm sorry, whatever. And Spock goes, I wish I would have been there to see it.
And it's so against
and it was like,
everything he stands for.
He stands there and looks at her and goes, I wish I... He's like, I don't blame you. And then he's like, I wish I had been there to see it. And then he kind of smiled at her. And I was like, what the fuck? That is not Spock. I don't care who
it just
you
doesn't
are.
Line up.
What in the world, dude? It was like, that was the moment where I tuned out of Discovery this season. And you know what? I got to say this. As much as last season I was shocked by some of the stuff that was going on, and I was like, this new Star Trek universe this is not Star Trek. As much as I said that season was pretty cool, and especially by the end. And the problem is, if it wasn't Star Trek, it would have been amazing. But here's the other problem. The second half of the season last year, the first season, season 1, the last 6 episodes have to do heavily with something from Star Trek. And it's awesome. And then the twist that happens in the last episode, dude, it's one of the best twists in anything I've ever seen. But it requires you to at least know 75% of every other Star Trek series so that you know about this certain thing that they're doing. And when they do it, I marked out. I was like, oh shit, this is going to be that. Oh my God, that is that. This is crazy. And now, holy crap, this is happening. Like, I'm telling you, like, that while most of it was garbage and some of the stuff was ridiculous, that twist and how they tied in to old Star Treks and stuff like that was really cool. Like, I really have to say that.
Made it all worthwhile.
So, like, yeah, so I would give the first season like a 7 out of 10 because of that. But this new season, I'm telling you, man, it was awful. Like, and it got worse every episode, and by the end, it was piss poor.
Yeah, see, that's disappointing. I mean, every now and again, like you said, you'll get to that moment where there's enough fan service and there's enough of a payoff that you're like, wow, I'm glad I stayed with it, through the lulls, through the slow points, and to hear that it got to be, the opposite of that, where you're just like, why did I even bother wasting time? That's disappointing, especially when they have, a great cast and everything, like you said, when it's just the writing that's the issue. Same thing with Game of Thrones. Again, I'm not up to date with Game of Thrones, but I essentially am as close to filled in without actually watching the show, and the way Daenerys' character changed so drastically. They've built this up for, 7 seasons just to have it thrown away so quickly. It's mind-boggling, and that, I mean, is a whole show in itself. But
yeah, I mean, the Game of Thrones thing is well. Listen, guys, thank you for listening to the Star Trek talk. I hope you guys enjoy it. Stick around on this channel for more of that and more talking about all kinds of. We'll just be doing a lot of pop culture, news, entertainment, whatever we want to talk about here. So hope you guys subscribe.
Seems like the writing needs to be fixed everywhere, Joe.
Yeah, this is an epidemic around Hollywood, and honestly,
from wrestling onward, everybody needs to work on the writing.
I hate
losing connection with what their message is, their theme.
Because Jake, here's what I believe. I'm sorry to say this, but a lot of these people now come from colleges where they're indoctrinated into things, and there's clearly an agenda to push. Like it's almost like all the kids nowadays don't understand the progress we've already made. Like we all felt pretty equal before. There was still a lot of work to be done and stuff for women and minorities and getting more inclusion and shit. But
yeah, the pay scale wasn't quite up to snuff, but treatment was pretty equal across the board, and
yeah,
there was a lot of progress that was made, as you said, gay marriage and civil liberties and things like that. People just being genuinely and generally accepted.
Yeah,
And now, as you were saying, there's some agenda or message or theme or tone that has to be forced into every, dramatic episode of a TV show or wrestling or even, dramas. And unfortunately, they're so focused on how do I get this, grandstanding soapbox moment across that it's to the detriment of the show itself.
When they don't understand that Star Trek has already solved this problem. So when they try to pigeonhole the problem indirectly into Star Trek, where they have some guy at the beginning of the show saying like, "Shut up, woman! I'll show you how to do it," and then he blows up, and then you're supposed to cheer for his death. That is not Star Trek, and that is not how you work that in. How you work it in is more subtly, because it still happens in Star Trek. It does. If you watch TNG, there's still bad guys and stuff like that, but you work it in more casually in the correct context. You don't just have this guy acting like this out of nowhere. When Star Trek, we've already changed as people in Star Trek. People are different. We're not the way we are now. There's not some guy being like, "You stupid girl, watch what I do." That's not what, no. And then that's not what's going on. People have evolved. It's different. So you wrote that in there because of what you think about today's society for whatever reason. And that does happen with some guys. But you put that in Star Trek in a way that doesn't make sense, and it's not it doesn't fit the universe. It just doesn't, and it stands out as coming off insincere. And that's all I have to say. I think Star Trek has always been one of those things that, the first black and white kiss on screen, and very inclusive. It's always been that way. You can have it that way, but don't make it so ridiculous. Like even the gay relationship with the two guys, the doctor and the scientist, the engineer.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was a little overdone. But I think any relationship was going to be overdone because they wanted more drama, so that didn't bother me. I picture, how did Riker and Deanna act? They had love scenes in hot tubs, kissing scenes, and that's,
but it wasn't to the detriment of the show. It wasn't taking away from what they were trying to achieve. It didn't stop them from completing
honestly,
missions.
I don't think the gay relationship did that on Discovery. I think if I remember, for the most part, I thought it was done fine. In fact, I actually at first was like, oh my God, here we go, But then I actually loved the doctor. I loved the black gay doctor. I really loved him, and he goes away at some point, and I was like, no, I really was believing he was the doctor of the ship, and I really liked him in that role, and now they're getting rid of him. No, don't do that. I actually really did like him, and I don't think that was any problem with that whatsoever. I didn't feel it was too shoved in your face, and so that was somewhat okay. It was a little bit, but again, I think any relationship was going to be that way. But it was, when you think about, there was a sex scene with a Klingon and a human man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were going all out. So, it was a loving relationship. No problem with that. I have zero issue. They did it, I think, organically. To be honest, I thought it was very believable. Maybe a little too much, but I would have said that even about a straight relationship. I don't want too much of that in Star Trek. Let's do Star Trek. I would have liked a little bit more sci-fi, and then a little bit more humanized interaction and character building instead of what we got. But that's my rant, and we'll catch you later, man. Me and Jake DeMarco. Jake, you brought the beast out of me, bro. I wish you'd watch. You got to watch Discovery at some point, even though it's garbage. The second season is atrocious, but whatever. All right, guys.
Definitely worth seeing.
Picard series. What do you think? Leave it below.